Okay, we are recording this episode. All right, so if this is something later you want to share with someone or ever want to go back and watch any parts of it, we will record it and post it on our website at some point. Two, the other housekeeping is I'm asking everyone just to stay muted presently, and if you do, we're gonna have a point where you can ask some Q&A and stuff, and we can unmute, or we have a chat box function too. But if you could try to leave yourself on mute until you're ready to ask a question. If we see your lips moving and you're trying to ask a question, we'll realize you're on mute. So, and as Sarah was kind enough to point out, depending on what device you're on, it's usually in the bottom left corner. But I think for Apple iPads and phones, it's up on the top, if I remember right. So that's a bit of housekeeping. One other thing I want to, today what we're here, we're very happy to have a distinguished guest with us, Sarah Bennell. I'm going to introduce her in just a moment, from Everplans. Some of you are, what just happened? Okay, some of you are familiar with Everplans. Some of you have been introduced. We started rolling this out about 2 years ago to our clients, and we found about a third of you jumped right in, completed the whole thing. Another third of you got into it, never did anything, and another third just never interacted with it. So one of the goals today is to help folks and you and your family interact with this. And we like to refer to this as your online or an online portal to store all the important things in your life. Okay. And Sarah's going to show us some neat things that you probably aren't aware of. So we're excited to have her. The last thing, let's see, I'll just bring this up. And I apologize, Sarah, this has nothing to do with Everplans, but we are going to have another month. Next month, we have a virtual beer tasting. Okay. So get ready for that invite from one of the local craft brewers, and they're going to deliver the beer to your house. So if you're not a beer drinker, that's okay, but we've got that coming. So look for that. And that's coming up. I think it's March 3rd, right, Cooper?
Yes, March 3rd, and it's going to be at 6:30 p.m.
Okay. So just FYI, you know what, everybody can social distance. And at the end of this, I've got a bonus for everybody. I've got a free gift for everyone that's on this call today.
Right. We should have done the beer tasting and then the Everplans demo.
I messed that up, didn't I? I did. All right. Well, let me introduce Sarah. I think there's a couple other folks just joining. If you are, we'll have you muted. Let me introduce Sarah Bennell. Sarah is a vice president of enterprise accounts and customer success. She spent her career in finance and technology, focusing on building relationships and strengthening client connections. At Everplans, she has enterprise relationships and partners with customers across our business to successfully integrate Everplans in their business. She's a valued partner to us. Sarah has demonstrated history in asset management, specializing in institutional and retail client service around the world. Outside of work, you can find Sarah practicing yoga, which I do too, so I love that. Reading, we love that. I love that too. Hiking, and with her Labrador Pearl. So without further ado, I'll let Sarah take over. I forgot to tell you what your outline was going to be today. So if you want to cover that.
Thank you. Pearl will maybe make a guest appearance. She likes to act up towards the end of these. So very 2021 sort of experience. Thank you guys so much for having me. I really appreciate it. As Ray said, I head up customer success at Everplans. And so what that really means is it's my job to make sure that all of you have a great user experience when you're in the platform and when you're reading our content and when you're just trying to use Everplans really to organize your life and protect your families. And so these are my favorite events to do, where I can meet the people who are using the platform. And if you write into our help desk at any time, you'll probably get a response back from me or one of the team members on my team. As Ray mentioned, today we're going to go over the Everplans platform. And so I'll just give you a brief outline so you know what to expect. I'm going to go through the platform in a live demonstration. I'm going to bring to life all of the different pillars that we would like you to consider as you use Everplans to organize your information. and share it with your family. And then we'll also talk a little bit about the resources that are available to all of you when you use Everplans. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to share my screen. And I'm just going to talk with you a little bit about what your Everplans experience will be like. If you've never seen the platform, this will be great for you. If you use the platform, thank you so much. We appreciate your business. And I am happy to show you maybe some new sections or sections that you're not familiar with. I'm just going to take a moment to arrange my screen, which just requires moving around some of these tools. What I have up here, and Cooper, can you just give me a thumbs up if you can see the Everplans homepage? Great, thank you. Here I'm showing the Everplans homepage. So before we start, with the demonstration, I always like to do a quick level set on what Everplans is. Ray did a great job. We are an online portal where users store all of the important information in their life for their own organization and in case of an emergency, should their family or close friends, trusted advisors need to be able to access that information. You're able to store so many different things in the Everplan. We'll go through some great examples today, but keep in mind as you're thinking about it, you can put your copy of your will or the location of your will. You can put financial documents, but you also can put favorite family recipes, items that are memorabilia. And as you're looking at this screen, all of these items that you see here are items that those of us who work at Everplans put in our own plans. So you see our co-founder, Abby, has a picture of her grandmother with her children in her Everplan. Other people have, maybe family heirlooms, like these pictures, and even memorabilia like baseballs. We also have more factual items like information on your passport, your credit cards. It really runs the gamut. The anecdote that I like to share to really bring it to life for people when I'm showing them a platform demonstration like this is, consider this. What good would your insurance policies be if your beneficiaries did not know that they existed? Would they know what company they were with or what type of insurance it was, where the details were? How could you enable your family members, your close friends, trusted family to step in and be you if you couldn't be yourself? That does not always mean some emergency like death, although it could. It could, though, mean you were stuck on a flight, a transcontinental flight, and you have an Amazon auto ship coming in a storm, or you're moving and your family's going to help you organize all of the different aspects of your home. And so there's just a lot of information that we all have organized somewhere that needs to be in a centralized place that can be shared. I'm going to go ahead and show you what the inside of the Everplans vault looks like here. Cooper, can you see where it says welcome, William?
Yes, we can.
Great. And so I'll show you here what this dashboard looks like in the Everplan. And this is, of course, a demonstration account. To get to this page, though, a few steps have to happen, and I'll just outline those so that you're familiar should you not be an Everplans user just yet. To be an Everplans user with Ray and Cooper, they'll go ahead and they'll deploy an invitation email to you, either for you and your spouse or an individual, to either go in and access your own plan or to access a shared plan. Within that email will be a button that you can click to activate your account. You can go ahead and create a password. We suggest that you turn on your two-factor authentication. And from there, you will go through a 9-module onboarding assessment. It's a little bit like a game. It's asking you questions like, does your phone have a lock code? Do you keep a centralized list of passwords? Do you have a will? And as we go through those questions, it is starting to really power the Everplan algorithm so that we learn a little bit more about you as a user, which allows us to really enhance your experience. That's your first time that you come in. Every time from thereafter, you log in at the Everplans homepage. When you're going through your Everplan and you're thinking about, is this the tool for me and my family? Is this something that I need? Which by the end of this demonstration, I hope I've really hit home that we all need an Everplan. That's the mission of our company. But as you're considering the Everplan, we really like you to keep in mind 4 like organizational pillars to help you. The first that I'll mention is security. This is such a common question that we get. How do I know my information in the Everplan is safe? And so first and foremost, Everplans was purpose-built to be an online portal where you would store sensitive and important information and share it. We were always meant to be this, and our infrastructure attests to it. We have military-grade encryption, which means that the information that you put in the Everplan is indecipherable or scrambled, if you will. It's scrambled when it's sitting in the platform and when it's being uploaded and downloaded. A lot of the companies that you hear who have breaches, they are not encrypting at rest because they are using your data for different aspects of their product. At Everplans, when you sign up, you'll see our privacy terms. We acknowledge that the data is your data. And so that data is sitting encrypted in the platform at rest. We're also SOC 2 compliant, which might mean something or it might not. It's a certification that your banking institutions have to go through. So if you're using an online banking app, we're being held to the same standards. We're also Hipaa compliant, which might be something more of you have heard of. That's like a doctor's office. If you're getting any test results, like COVID test results, off of a portal, that's a Hipaa compliant portal. We too are a Hipaa compliant portal. And then of course, we've been vetted by many, many financial and insurance institutions who we count among our partners. And we are more than happy to share any documentation on our terms, our privacy policy, or a robust security document with any of you, if you'd like that as a follow-up. That's the first pillar. So I hope that sets a stage of trust. We don't ever ask for things like your social security number or make you store things like passwords, but we like you to know that there's space for it and the security protocols around it. What makes Everplans different than other places that you can store information, in some cases is pretty obvious. Before I came to work at Everplans, my family and I used basically a filing box. My mom used a desk drawer. It would just be every statement that came into the house would go into the desk drawer so that if we needed to know about any accounts, if anything should happen, that's where we would go. But we all know that we can do a little bit better than that. And so with Everplans, for many of us, Everplans has become a more organized version of that box in the basement or filing drawer. We also are a place where you can store so many different kinds of documents, PDFs and videos and the like, and we guide you in the Everplans platform of where to put those items. And so when you consider the types of information that you're storing and the different mediums that you're putting in, within the Everplan, we have a guidance feature. This guidance feature shows you the different types of information that you should have organized to make it more valuable for you and your family. We also have a sharing feature. That's our third pillar. That I think is the star of the show. It's our deputy program. It's that, how do I let the beneficiaries know that the insurance policy exists? It's that functionality. Who makes great deputies? Beneficiaries, adult children, family members, trusted advisors and friends, the list goes on. And then the fourth thing is contextual prompts. This is how we keep the Everplan up to date over time. And we know that although we think this is an exciting topic, life is very busy. And so we're gonna help you come back to the platform through an email engagement. And when you're in the platform, we're gonna make the most of your time by surfacing, we call them NBAs, next best actions, things to do next, and letting you know how long those will take. And so let's dive in. The section that I like to show, which more simply shows our guidance feature, is the home section. You note here that this is a home ownership section being selected. You may be a renter, you may have a financed home, it may be all paid for, you may have a different circumstance. This brings our guidance feature to life in a way that is so common. We all have a place where we live. And so if it's owned, it's all paid for, we're asking the user, you, to put in information like plot or lot number, where do you keep the original deed, where do you pay your taxes. We're giving you the option to drag and drop files, to assign contacts if there's a handyman or a super, and to leave instructions. For example, here you see there's a key in the safe deposit box. And that is something that we all know that we like to use, but family members don't always know where the key to the safe deposit box is, or what institution the safe deposit box is even at. And so in this section, we're showing what an owner who's all paid for would need. But if you were a renter, you would need different information. We'd need to know who your landlord or management company is. Your family would need to understand what your rent is, when your lease ends, the ability to drag and drop that lease in here, still assign a contact, and always leaving notes and instructions. This guidance is really us trying to do the work for you, to take the guesswork out of what you need to have organized and shared with your loved ones. This is great for life management, and it's also really wonderful for your family should they ever need to step in and take over anything. I'm happy to go through any sections that anybody wants. I'm going to start right now on my favorite sections. One of my favorites is the digital section. This is something that we call a digital estate. And there may be a couple people on this call who answer and say, oh, I don't really have that. And I, before working in a technology company, might have thought the same thing. But what you realize is we're all amassing digital estates. Today, you might have joined a new aspect of the digital estate with a Zoom account. If you're sharing information through Facebook, like videos, looking at pictures of grandchildren, if you have an Amazon account, which is probably everybody on this call, all of these are the different ways that we amass a digital estate. And it's very hard for family members to understand what is out there, what would need to be closed down in case of a death, how to access that information. And I'll give you an example of some simple things like iTunes user provisions, for example. They state that when a person dies, that catalog goes with them. So if you purchased a lot of music or videos, that is something that without somebody else having the password to, wouldn't be passed along. Another great example, like you see here, devices. iPhone will lock after 10 mistries on putting in the access code. For a family where there's been a death and they want to get at the videos and photos that are on the phone, that can be so devastating. So sharing this information, or if we're not comfortable putting it in the Everplan, maybe you don't want it on the internet, it's at least going in a section like this and saying, I'm not going to leave my access code, but I'm going to go down here in notes and instructions, and I'm going to say, I have a list of passwords that is in the top desk drawer, and you will find this in that file. And if the top desk drawer is locked, the key is in the home safe. And the combo for the home safe is, and at Everplans, we call that leaving a trail of breadcrumbs. It's not putting any sensitive information that standalone has value, but it's letting your family know, I have this, I've taken care of it, it's organized for you, and this is where you can find it. So when I think of the guidance feature, I think of it in sections like this as well, where we're prompting you for what you may want to organize, but we're not ever forcing you to put a password or an account number. We're just giving you the opportunity. The aging section is a section that I really think is really special in the Everplan. One of the items that I like to point out, going along with those contextual prompts and the guidance and sharing information with families, is this questionnaire that we have. And it asks a user how they want to be taken care of as they age. Do you want to live in your home? Do you expect to go live with a family member? If we were in a conference room together, I would make everybody do the exercise of, and who's had that conversation in the last 6 months? Because circumstances change. And so we have questionnaires like this within the Everplan that help families have these discussions and share the responses. So everybody knows what everyone's expectations are. I really love this. And I think that it shows also a softer side of the Everplan. It's not only just factual information, there's a lot of softer things. The other section that is my favorite is the family recipe section. I have my mom's sauce recipe in here. This is actually a little bit of a joke that I like to tell, but it is true. And Ray, I know you've already heard me probably tell this on a stage at some conference. So my mom is an Italian mother, and she lures us home whenever she can with lasagna and eggplant parmesan and all the things that require her sauce. But when she makes that sauce, she turns her back a little, and you can't quite see. Was that a whole tube or can of tomato paste? Was it a teaspoon? She's never going to tell. And within the Everplan, you can share information with your family, and you can decide whether you want to share that information now or after death. And so I always say to my mom, there better be an after death section in your Everplan, and it better be that sauce recipe. I respect if she doesn't want to give it to me just yet, but when we think about the Everplan, these are the kinds of things that I like for people to think about, because you will go in, and if you have a copy of a will, it was probably painful to draw up, and you will indicate that you have that. We will mention our accounts when we're in here, but there's a lot of other things that are not totally straightforward that we've thought of that you might not have yet. And so we love to point them out, whether it's an ethical will, leaving letters to families and family members and friends. Some people pre-plan their own funeral. Excuse me, it's really taking a lot of the hurdles out of thinking about, what do I need to have? What does my family need? What's important to us? I say that an Everplan with 4 things in it can be very, very valuable. If you have the lock code to your phone, password to a password manager, family heirlooms and memorabilia, and then, maybe a copy of your will, or letting your family know that there's an insurance policy. That can be a great, great start to an Everplan, and they grow over time with us and our families. And so if you look through and you start with some of these sections, you're really able to fill it out with, I'm using the bar on the left-hand side, but you're also really able to fill it out by going to the dashboard and using the next best actions. This is the guidance and the contextual prompts coming to life. We're letting you know, if you only have 3 minutes, you can get started and make some real progress for yourself and your family in your Everplan. We're also giving you a tabular way to let you know what sections you can work on and where you've already made some progress. And then Everplan started over 10 years ago as a content site. As Ray mentioned, we've written a book. Content is really the backbone of our business. So we're giving you content throughout this experience to help you. And so when I showed the sections, we really highlighted the guidance. We've highlighted here how you can navigate the plan, the guidance, and the contextual prompts. And I'll just show one other section to bring the content to light. When I first started at Everplans, I had a background in finance. I really thought I had a lot of this documentation stuff down. And I realized that I wasn't totally clear on what an advanced directive is. Some of you may not be either. Within the Everplan, we have an advanced directive cheat sheet. We have all sorts of other content that you can search on the web, that you can get from Cooper and Ray. It's really wonderful to have a professional like themselves and their team with you, because we have so much great content. You might have a family member having a baby or getting married, and you want to share a checklist with them. We can help you with that. But I like to show how when you're in the Everplan experience, if there's a section that you're not totally familiar with and you think, I need to learn a little bit more about that, chances are we have a piece of content on that, or it's mentioned in our book. And then that last pillar that I would like to bring to light, and then we can get into some Q&A and I can poke around where anybody wants me to, is that pillar that I mentioned that to me is one of the biggest aspects, the most beneficial uses of Everplans, and that's the deputy section. A deputy is a person in your life who's very important to you and who you trust. It is somebody who you would share information with now or after death. It could be something very meaningful, like a family recipe, but it also could be information that you would share, and I'll give you a life example. I have a Labrador, as was mentioned, and when I worked in New York City back when we would commute, I would have her come to my home and walk my dog once a day. She was a deputy on my Everplan. She could see my pet information, my home information, so she could access the emergency code to get in, and the pet insurance, because anybody who's had a lab puppy knows that that's a very important purchase. And so that's a great way to think of a deputy. She didn't see all my information. There's a way to select what someone will never see. She would never need to see my accounts and assets, my elder care living preferences, but it was really useful from a life management standpoint. There are other great life management standpoints that people use. Will keep copies of their insurance cards, passports, other license information in the Everplan. I have a colleague who is a really avid traveler. Before he goes on any trip, he uploads a most recent copy of his passport, his itinerary, and he shares it with his deputies. This is his way for making sure that his family is really prepared when he's hopping around the globe. He's working from the Cayman Islands now, so I'm sure he did that before he left. So we like to point out all of the different uses. I will give some uses for the people in the audience that are pretty common that we hear. A lot of families, and I can actually use my own in this, talking about my own family. My mom is a widow. She lives 2 hours from where I live, and she's retired. And she and I can see all of the information in each other's Everplans now, except for her recipe section. But I know where everything is in her Everplan, because it would take me a couple hours to get there to help for anything that is time sensitive. The other way that we would have organized it when I was younger, let's say I was still in college, she likely would have put most things here for after death. She would have wanted me to know about the insurance or the financials, but only if I needed it. And then I've given, of course, a great example of never with a dog walker, a nanny, and that could just pertain to certain sections. You're able to turn this on and off in real time. And it's something that if it changes, you're able to come in and quickly update. We suggest that you have multiple deputies. 4 is the number that we suggest. If there were an accident or you were stuck somewhere, you might be with some of your deputies. We have a feature, as I mentioned, where you share some of the information after death. So we encourage you to go in and say, who would I put in charge of unlocking my information? And how they would unlock your information is your deputies would log in to their deputy account. That requires the email address that you invited them with and the password that they created. They would report you as deceased by clicking a button. And then in the time frame that you selected, the process would unfold. You might, and how that process unfolds is Everplan sends you an email, multiple emails. Are you sure you meant for the unlocking process to start? And you're able to stop that process. This user has selected that we try and ping them for 48 hours, but it could be all the way up to 30 days. This is the most fast, efficient way to get information out there and keep it in your hands. Death certificates vary by county and take a very long time. This also allows you to decide who gets to see your information and when, and who gets to start that process. And so the deputies is something that I say, it's very, very meaningful. It's very valuable, but give it a little bit of thought as you do it and play around with your Everplan as you're starting to list your deputies. And the beauty of the Everplan is we're also here to help you as you go through your plan. So as I mentioned, we have the algorithm that's taking in, all of these 10 items that William has put in his Everplan, using that to surface back to him the next best actions, the next best steps for him. We're also have an email engagement program called Blueprint. And that is 10 emails a year that come to your inbox and that encourage you to say, have you added a deputy? Have you reviewed your deputies? Have you put in information and updated your digital accounts? They're short, they're fun. Some of them are short videos of our co-founders. They're not meant to be onerous. They're just meant to help keep you moving and prompt you through the things that we've learned are really valuable to have in the plan. And then the last item that I'll mention in a little bit more detail is that book that Ray mentioned. We wrote a book in quarantine. Our 2 co-founders and our head of editorial wrote a book called In Case You Get Hit by a Bus. It is an Amazon bestseller, which just happened officially this week, which we're really excited about. The Blueprint engagement email sequence is aligned with the book, and the book is wonderful. I'm sure I have my book around here somewhere, but I know that the team does as well. And it's something where you can sit down and earmark pages. I noticed, I think I saw the last name is Landis. Somebody on this call has a very impressive library. So it would be a good addition to any library. And it's just something that is a great complement to the Everplan. You don't need one to have the other, but it really is a wonderful way to, think about how you want your life and your legacy to be organized and shared. There are so many different sections that I didn't go through, but I'm happy to go through in the Q&A. We have sections on your favorite charities. We have sections on like 23andMe genealogy. There's so many different ways that you can be using the Everplan that is not all related to emergencies, but certainly it shows its value in that case as well. And the health section is one. These will be my last comments before we open it up to Q&A. The health section is one that has become even more important to our customers in COVID. We have all realized that as organized as we are, there are some pieces of information that we really need to communicate with our families. And in the Everplan is a great way to do it. Looking through the components of an advance directive, you could even fill out an ethical will, which is actually not a legal document, but more along like a wishes sort of document. But we know that families being so spread out really value having a portal where they can share that information with one another in real time. So I'll just highlight that section a little bit more and then open it up to any questions. And I'm happy to show my screen again and get back in the platform.
Wow, that was great, Sarah. Thank you. And so here's what we're gonna do. There's 2 ways to ask a question. One, if you prefer, throw it in the chat box. I'll certainly ask it, or you can unmute. There's a couple questions here. There's one in particular I'll kick off. Let me see. It says, so I love this, is a great question. So what if Everplans goes bankrupt, from Tom Rice, and what would happen to my information?
That is a very good question. Everplans is recently acquired by an insurance company. We remain a standalone company. They do not get any access to the data. Our privacy policy remains the same, but it certainly provides a real long-term path for Everplans. Our terms of service and our privacy policy acknowledge that the information in the Everplan is yours and yours alone. We do not use that information for anything other than to make the Everplan a better experience for you. I'm going to share my screen really quickly, and I'm going to show you something that I missed showing before. You are able to download a copy of your Everplan to a PDF. This download goes to your computer. So in the event that you're traveling and you want to take a copy with you, or the event that you want to leave a paper copy in your home safe for someone, it is there for you. But should anything happen where Everplans is out of business, you would be able to gather your information, download a copy of your information, delete your information from the portal. It is your data.
Great. Any other questions? Again, if you want to just unmute, just chime in. There was one other question. And look, I think this stuff is top of mind right now with COVID, everything that's been going on the last year. This stuff's important. And many of you may remember what happened with Davis Teston's father, who was a good friend of mine, or still is a good friend, and had a stroke unexpectedly and had none of this. And what I would tell you is the emotional pain from death is bad enough. When you throw the financial on top of it, it's almost unbearable. So we want to protect our spouse or whoever we're leaving behind. And everyone that I've interacted with, once they get this in, they're like, God, they feel so good. I'm so glad I did this. I had a question for, and I see, here's another question. Well, I may have missed this, but what are the protection against hackers? Security is a big question. And Ginger had a question today for me, and I said, well, she got hacked. If I'm going to throw this in too, and Ginger, not to throw you under the bus, but her computer got hacked a year ago. She said, what should I do? And I said, well, first thing I do is change the password in Everplans and turn on 2-step authentication. That was my advice, but I'd love to hear what you think, Sarah.
Well, I think that's a great piece of advice. The first thing you do is, certainly look at what was compromised and change the passwords immediately, and maybe just change all the passwords everywhere. With Everplans, as I mentioned, we're purpose-built. And a little bit more about why that's important. There are businesses out there that you hear having breaches. Think of I'll pick on Target. Target was not purpose-built to be an online retailer as a business. They started out as a brick and mortar store. Now they do everything from shipping and online returns and you name it. And that business, the foundation, had to just keep stacking up. We were built to be what we are, which is a very solid foundation. We have the military grade encryption. We use Amazon Web Services for all of our information to be stored. That's best in class, gold star. And we do go through the annual certifications of Hipaa Compliance, which is meant to protect personally identifiable information, SOC 2 compliance, which is the same rigorous standard as your banks. And then we also have to become compliant with like California privacy protection laws, which are the most rigorous in the country. And so we are annually getting tested against those certifications, and we are, passing without any blip on our record. And I think that that is a testament to, we knew that we wanted to help people organize sensitive information and share it. And so we're built for that. But my last piece on that is, you should only put as much or as little as you feel comfortable with having online. Ginger, I'll continue to pick on you because Ginger's a family name in my family and Ray started it. But I would say if I were you and I had recently been hacked, I would be leery, right? Like if you're going to get a new computer, how your data was compromised, we all are constantly putting our information out there these days. And so if you don't want to put all of that in the Everplan for your own personal worries or peace of mind, it can still be so valuable to say, I have a list of passwords written down in a safe. I have an iPhone. I have an insurance policy. From our business, we hear horror stories all the time. Families that had insurance policies lapse because a family member canceled a credit card or a bank account that was linked to that insurance policy when they took over doing bills, and then all of a sudden insurance coverage was lost. There are other things in the Everplan that are really important, preferences on things like your funeral. There's just all different kinds of information that you can put in there. And so it doesn't have to be all of your passwords and all of your account information, although it can be.
Yeah, and I'm going to jump in again. So let me see a show of hands here. How many people have been into this Everplans and started to populate it? Can I see a show of hands? All right, so I'm going to
show it.
Oh, I can't see some people, but let's say half, right? That might be half. So we got another half that haven't been in it. All right. So I think Sarah showed you some great tricks for people that have been in it. Like, here's some stuff you didn't like. But I think, Sarah, one of the most daunting things is, how can they expect to engage in it? How long does it take the first time they get in it just to get going? And then what can they expect the second time? It's not that bad, but I think Sarah has more experience of this than I do.
So I think that's a great question, and the answer will vary person by person. But I will show you a couple different ways that people commonly go in. Some people, like when my mom retired, is around the time that I was starting at Everplans. And she, 40 years working in insurance, and she still needed help with all of her healthcare stuff in retirement. And so she had done a tremendous amount of work. She went in and used the tabular section of the Everplan to go put the documents that she already had organized in her plan. Now, when I went in my Everplan, I worked down the menu bar on the left-hand side and started by putting in the information that I already had, or that what I knew was important to me. If you have the lock code to my iPhone, you have my banking apps, you have all my videos, you have my photos. And so to me, those were the important places for me to start. I think when you think about the life moments, right? Maybe you've sold a home or bought a home. Maybe you've bought a new car and you had to change your license plates. Maybe you opened a new account somewhere, whether it be digital or otherwise. Anytime something like that happens, it's a great reason to come and take 5 minutes to update your plan. For the very first time that you're starting out, we have an essential planning checklist. Ray, I'll resend that to you after this call. It might be a great thing to share. This essential planning checklist was something that we tweaked when COVID was ramping up. And it goes through each section of the Everplan, and it just talks about the really important pieces of information in those sections. I think that you can come to the Everplan. I'll actually go back in and share my screen one more time. I think you can come to the Everplan in 15 minutes and save your family so much heartache and get yourself feeling better about your organization. The best way to do it is after you go through those onboarding assessment questions, you come here. If you don't have an idea of what you want to do first, come here. Based on the information that William has in his plan already, he should next look at how people would access his computer and mention where he keeps his passwords and update his emergency contacts. Fill in the driver's license. Maybe he's not a driver. No big deal. He can X out of that and say, remind me later, or just remove it. Social security info. You may say, I'm not putting my social security number here, but the card is in the top desk drawer. That takes less than 1 minute. As we were talking about with COVID, families need to know, especially when they're not living near one another, who's your doctor? Who's in charge? Who are your neighbors? Who can help in a jam? And so you just keep going through this way, Ray, I think is a great way to do it. And we're telling you how long it will take. This is to get the basic information in. If you have 5 cars, it'll take you 5 minutes. That's the sort of gist of it.
Yeah, it doesn't take as long as you think. And people put this up. There's an old joke with attorneys. They never write their own will because they think if they do, they're going to die. It's really true. And this is the same thing. And trust me, it's worth doing. There was some. So look, here, one thing I would tell we'll wrap up here in a few minutes, but look, Sarah's the expert or one of the experts. So this is your chance. If you have a question, ask it. Unmute and go, I'm a new user. What about this? I'm an intermediate user. You have any suggestions about this? And then I'll ask maybe one question at the end. So I'm going to open it up.
And I think Al and Mary Landis had a question. I think I saw them raising their hand. But we're going to need to unmute them.
Hold on. I know. Oh, there you go, Al, Mary.
Thank you. Just a basic question. I noticed on one of the earlier screens it said free for 2 months. What would be the cost after the 2-month period?
I should have addressed that. That is to a consumer, not to somebody who gets it from a professional. Ray, I'll let you get all the glory with the response on this one.
I paid for this software. I pay for it, and you guys all get it for free.
Thank you.
It doesn't cost you a dime. And I was going to say this at the end, but since you brought it up, it's not just for you. It's for your own family and loved ones. We will extend it to them for free, even if they are not clients.
Wow. Thank you again.
Wow.
So,
That's wonderful, Ray. Thank you.
Now, I will tell you this, we got to have their email to give them the invite. So you just arrange with us. We're happy to do it.
Okay, Ray,
Yes, Roger.
when I die, suppose Amy is incapacitated for some reason, who is supposed to know to go into Everplan and look for my stuff? Who does it, and how do they get to everything if I've said they don't have access to certain information, then how do they all of a sudden get that information after I'm gone?
These are great questions. And so I'm going to pull it up and walk you through it. But I will say they know because you make them a deputy. You make them a deputy by adding them as a deputy in the Everplan here. First name, last name, email, and relationship. This sends them an email, and they are encouraged to start a free account with that email and their password. And I glossed over that earlier. And so I'm glad we were prompted to come back. So they create a deputy account with their own password, 2-factor authentication. It's somebody that you trust, and that's how they have it. How you manage what they have is up to you. You go in and you choose the sections that you want to share with each individual deputy. If you say someone should never get access to these financial information, even when you're gone, they don't get access to these financial information. So it's important to decide who gets what now, who gets it later. That's like the example with my mom and I. if, you know, when I was younger, she would have wanted me to have it, but not have it at my fingertips unless there was an emergency. And then me with my dog walker, she never needs that information. So I'm
Right.
always going to keep her at never. And they know when they log in, it's laid out to them. It's laid out to them in the email, and then it's laid out to them in the portal. We make it really, really clear because we think that the deputy functionality is so important that they know that they can come here and get the information that they need quickly.
So, say different parts of it, different deputies should have access to different parts so that all deputies have the total thing.
I think so. It depends really on how you want to use it. You might use some things to organize for yourself, but yes, most of the things in here, it would behoove you to have a deputy assigned to them.
Okay. And like I said, I put them all together and they can complete the puzzle.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
A question from Annabelle Bricker is, wait, let's see, it says, so does each individual need their own account, or do I put all family members under my account?
That's a good question, and it varies family by family. You could have an individual account, 2 spouses, all family members. You may find that that's redundant. So the typical way that it goes is most married couples have one plan. That's called a household account. And you can only get that through a professional like Ray. And so it's one plan where each individual can assign the information to who owns it. This is my IRA. This is my health insurance card. This is my spouse's. And so that's a great way for it to work. There are some people who do keep it separate. Maybe they're on their second marriage, or they have a family from a previous marriage and they don't want it all bundled together. Now, when you talk about all your family members, the way that I think about it is, if you've gone off to college, you should have your own Everplan, because your information is going to be different than your family's. When you're all under one roof, it's pretty easy to capture all of the kids' information under the parents.
Yeah, good answer. So Annabelle, and I know that family well. So one for you and your husband, and probably your adult children, one for each. But they could be deputies too, so makes sense.
I'll give you an interesting use case, not to complicate it more, but my mom and I each have our own plan. She's better at technology, you know, than half of Everplans, I like to joke, although I am just kidding. But as she ages, we have talked about, should we just have an Everplan together where we can each upload documents? And so when you're thinking about making people deputies, just know that a deputy account is not allowed to upload documents. They're allowed to view what's in your plan. So if you want someone to share the task of uploading information, you should be on a household, and Ray can set that up for you.
And I have a question, because this household stuff gets a little confusing sometimes. If we set somebody up, let's say, if you've made somebody an individual household, if you make them a household from the start, they're fine. But if they are an individual from the start, you can't make them a household. You have to start over, right?
You can make them a household, but what you cannot do is merge 2 existing separate plans together.
Yeah. That happened to my wife, Cammie, and I. She's on this call. So when we started investigating this, I had the separate, and I'd populate everything, and now ours is separate. And so it's very important we keep you together. So it's a little complicated. So 2 emails. Can one household have the same email with 2 people?
No, your email is your unique identifier in the Everplan. And so 2 individuals, 2 different emails.
Okay.
That's security.
Yeah. What other questions?
I do have a question, Ray. So in thinking about this, I think there's nothing more powerful or emotionally comforting than being able to hear the voice and see your loved one. And so I know you mentioned earlier kind of implementing a video in this Everplans. Could you speak on how the best practices on doing that? And I know that there is some kind of storage limitations, so maybe some workarounds for that.
Yes. So I would say that there are storage considerations, but they're not easily exceeded. And if you were to exceed them, you can come to us and we can help you. Typically, what I would say is don't put in one 1-hour video. Put in a couple different videos in different sections as they make sense. If you're the type of person that's leaving long videos to your family, which I think we're going to see more and more, there are other mediums that are better for that. But it is something on our roadmap to increase our capabilities with video. So stay tuned. But it is something that is supported right now and serves most families' function.
Okay. And when you drop it into the Everplans, it just works the same way as like the PDFs and those
Yep.
things.
You drop it or you upload it.
That's great. All right, we got a couple more minutes. Any other questions? This is your opportunity. Crickets? I'm looking at you all.
It's a lot of information. I think some of the content that we share, and Ray, you might have had a comment about the book.
Yes, did I say, so we're gonna give every participant here a free copy of the book. Did I mention that, or I can't remember what I said?
No,
No,
oh,
it's not
All of
thank
you are
you.
getting a copy of the book. Amazon's a wonderful thing. We're just gonna ship it to you in Amazon. It's gonna be a piece of cake. But I appreciate everyone's attendance. As I said, this stuff's all top of mind right now. I think it's very important. We certainly want all our clients to stay safe and well, but also want to protect your family in case something happened even unexpectedly, or, we just want to protect against those things. I think I'm trying to think of, all right, so I mentioned the book. We're going to record this. We'll post this on the website. You can share this with folks too, your loved ones as well. And Cooper, did we record? If we recorded it, Cooper has, and the last couple things, Cooper, I think most of you in this call have met Cooper or who know who Cooper is. He's our newest employee, joined us back in March, but he's been very creative and recorded a quick 10-minute intro video too that kind of complements what Sarah did as well. That is also on our website. So we're trying to give you all the tools to make this as simple as possible, really.
Yeah, and one more tool that I will throw in there. Ray could kind of donate the book, but I can donate the time. And so, like I said in the email invitation, I am happy to give each and every one of you as much time as you need going through this Everplans and helping you navigate the software itself, because it is easy to see it as a demo by the professional, but sometimes it can get confusing and remembering how this goes and that. So I'm happy to help out. Just reach out anytime.
Yeah, and remember, we populate your accounts that you hold with us ahead of time. So we try to pre-populate some of this stuff for you. So we take a little of the workload off. It's not you don't have to start from scratch, but I don't know your title for your cars and stuff like that. So, it's a good place to store all those things. But with that, I think we're going to finish right about on time, if not a few minutes early. I want to thank Sarah for her time. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you guys.
Thank you very much.
We
Yes,
appreciate your partnership, and everyone, we appreciate you. Stay safe, stay well, look for the beer tasting, and we are in our new office, so we're all excited about that. So that's the big news here. So
Thanks,
Thank you, Ray.
everybody.
have a great
Thanks.
night,
Thanks,
guys.
guys.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.